All right, today I'm going to show you a few different ways to use the drawImage command with the canvas. So we'll start with the first example using the HTML tag. And here, let's take a look at our HTML portion of the file. And the important stuff here is I have the canvas in a div, and it's 300 by 300. And I have our image right here. I put that in a div. I call it game board images with the idea of putting more than one of these in here. So whatever game pieces or uh, game images, you can line them up all in here. Uh, this corresponds to the ID we're going to use in the code portion, and this corresponds to the actual file name. And if we take a look at the folder it's in, here's our file right here. It's a 64 by 64 image. And let's just take a look at the code here. And if you've seen the previous videos, this should be fairly common now. It's pretty much standard in each video. So this is for our canvas, and this is for the context of the canvas. And we use these to basically draw on the canvas. This is how we initialize. We get the ID of the canvas, and then we get the context from the canvas. And we use the CTX variable to draw commands. So in this case, we're drawing a filled rectangle, green color, that occupies the whole canvas area. And we're using the HTML image element, and using the ID I just showed you over here. This is the ID right here. And what this does is just draw the image on the center of the canvas. So let's just compile this and take a look at it in the browser. So in every program, I just use test.pas and test.html just to keep things simple. You can use whatever file name you like. So this compiled fine, and if I go to our browser here, I'll refresh this, and this is what we see. Now let's take a look at the code again and see why this works this way. So one of the things you'll notice is I'm calling this unload image draw instead of just calling the draw procedure here. And that's because when we're loading images using the HTML image tag, we have to wait for the full page to load. That's only the HTML side of things. So we need all the items in here. So if you had a large portion of images, it would take much longer, not much longer, but a little bit longer. And there might be a situation where the images didn't fully load. So if you try to use the draw image command, it might not display anything. So I'm just going to demonstrate when we don't use the onload callback to do that. So I'm going to comment it out, and we're just going to call it draw directly. So instead of calling the onload image draw when the page fully loads, we're calling just the draw procedure here. And let's see what happens. I'll save it and we will compile. And let's go back to our browser and refresh. And you'll notice that the image disappeared or didn't draw because it's not, the page is not loading the image fast enough in the JavaScript, or the compiled JavaScript doesn't find the image. And but one thing we can do, if we keep refreshing, eventually it gets it. So most of the time it fails, but occasionally, if we keep doing this, there we go, we got it again. So this is one of the problems with not using the callback, is that it's unreliable. So if you're using the HTML image tag, if you're using this to load up your images, you should use the callback. Now, one other thing you might have noticed is that you're seeing the image also here, and that's probably not desirable. Well, that's an easy fix. We could just come here and just make it hidden. And let's recompile everything again. Go back to our browser and let's refresh everything. So the image is gone from the bottom. Well, it's still not working because I didn't put back the callback. Let's go back here, put the callback, and recompile again. Back to our browser and refresh. So now we have the image here, and we don't have the image being displayed at the bottom. And that's because we put the hidden value in the tag. So if you want it to appear when you're debugging, just leave this out. And if we go back to the browser, because we only changed the HTML portion, we don't need to recompile, and it's back here. All right, let's move on to the next example, and that's drawing the image with Canvas as the source. So let's close this here. And we're going to select this and this. All right. So in this example, we see that I have a whole bunch of canvases defined here. So normally I just have one, but now I have four. And the second, third, and fourth, the width and height are only 64 pixels. So let's go to our code here, and my canvas variables, I have the same amount that corresponds to, usually I have just these two here, but now I have three more. In our init canvas, again, I have three more. And in our draw portion, I'm drawing, again, filling the main canvas green. And on the second canvas, I'm filling a red box and putting a white hello world, and doing the same thing with the third, but blue background, and the fourth with orange. So let's take a look at that. I'll compile that. Let's exit out of this. CD. Here we go. That's the one. Okay. And if we go back to our browser, I'm going to go back, and we need to be in this folder. And let's run our test HTML, and we have this. Now, what's different about this from the previous example is that we don't need to use the window on load callback. Everything just draws first time around. There's no waiting, and that's because we're really not loading any images. Everything we're showing on the screen now is built up with the canvas commands. So all these are just drawing rectangles and some text, but we're not loading any external images. Everything is built from that. And if we look here, let's just start from the top here. So we draw something in the second canvas, and then we use the main canvas draw image command, But instead of specifying an image here, we're specifying this canvas. So the CTX2 corresponds to the context of canvas 2. So we're actually drawing canvas 2 into canvas, the main canvas, canvas 1. And we're doing the same thing for canvas 3. We're drawing canvas 3 into the main canvas. And same for canvas 4. And again, we don't need to use the Windows on load. So this might be another option for you if you want to use the canvas to store temporary images. And just like we were doing before with the image tag, we can make the additional canvases hidden as well. But let's reveal them so you can see what's going on. So let's save, and again, because I'm only changing the HTML, we don't have to recompile. And you can see that, here we go. This is the additional canvas that we're drawing on. So if we expand this, we can see the additional canvases. So that's another way of drawing things off screen and then drawing them to your main canvas. So I'm going to change things back. And just resave that. And let's go to our next example. Okay, yeah, this is the one I want. And if we look at our HTML file, we have a simple, just one canvas again, and nothing else. And if we look at our code now, again with our main canvas initialization, we only have one canvas. But now we have a new procedure here that I've created. And this is to simplify loading images on demand, basically. So instead of having to wait for the page to load up, we can use a callback for the HTML image element. So if we look right here, we initialize it this way. And for the source, we specified the file name, but also here for the unload, we specify this callback function here. And if we look carefully, there's a draw image inside here, and it basically draws the image once it's loaded. So we wrap everything up in this nice procedure that we could execute from anywhere, and basically when it loads, it will draw. So we specify the XY coordinates and the canvas context that it should draw the image in. And we specified the file name in the URL string. So I'll show you how that's done. So in our draw procedure again, we paint the canvas green and we load these two files. And if we look in the our folder here, let's go to the proper folder. We have these two files. And let's go to command line and compile this as well. Again, our file names are the same, test.pas. And let's go back to our parent folder. And this is our file. And if we run test HTML, we have those two images. And again, if we go back to our code and we scroll to the bottom here, we have our initialization canvas, and then just draw. We're not using the window on load callback. So we can, if we want to, let's see what happens if we do that. Should update this to unload draw and go back to command line. And if we go to our browser, refresh, it still works. So it doesn't really affect it if you do decide to use that, but it can work fine without it. So again, if we comment this in and uncomment this out, compile, back to our browser, refresh, and it works either way. So that's all I want to talk about in this video. In the next video, I will probably be talking about the put image and get image commands and image data commands. So that's it. Thanks for watching.